Good day, good day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. Today we have with us Heidi. Hi, Heidi. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I am so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Of
Yeah,
course.
okay. Well, I have been homeschooling for 22 years. I
Oh,
have,
veteran.
yeah, yep. I have five boys. I'm on my last one. He is a senior in high school this year. And so I'm, kind of on my way out, but to be honest, I'm still neck deep in
Of
homeschooling.
course.
And I'm helping other people do it and helping communities, homeschool communities, and I just love it. And it's kind of expanding into, a broader education thing, but I love homeschooling because of our ability to individualize education for our kids. And uh, I've also loved how it's changed me because I mean, homeschooling, let's face it, it is a lifestyle. It is not
Indeed.
just an educational choice, it is a lifestyle. I mean, have you found that?
Yes, no, I totally agree. Totally agree. Yes.
Yeah. And anyway, I never thought I wanted to be a teacher when I was in college. I was determined I was not going to be a teacher because I didn't want to teach the kids. I mean, my experience in the public school system was just not that great. I did
Okay.
not see very many people who wanted to learn. And if I was going to teach, I
Mm,
wanted to teach people who wanted to learn.
it
And
does make it easier.
doesn't it? Oh
Yes.
my gosh, it does so much. And anyway, I decided it was like my senior year of my bachelor's degree that okay, maybe I do need to become a teacher.
No.
And but I was not going to teach kids because I didn't think they wanted to learn. And
Mm.
so I decided, okay, I'll go and get my master's degree so I could teach at the college level because I
Mm.
figured,
Yeah,
you
just
know, yeah,
blow past those other ones. Like,
yeah,
y'all are
yeah. I
being
mean,
forced to be here. You don't want to be here for real. Let me go to the people who are actually paying to be here. Let me talk to them.
yes, exactly. And I thought, even I had had enough experience with the university kids that I'm like, I don't even want to do them. I want to go to the community college because
Okay.
that, it's there's like older students, there's people who want, I just felt like they would want to be there more. So I went and got my master's degree, and it wasn't in education or anything, but it was in my bachelor's was in home economics with a focus on clothing and textiles. And so I went and got uh, a master's in, yeah, my focus was textile merchandising. So
Okay.
yeah, so I taught classes like fashion design and merchandising, which is like retail, the business
Mm.
of clothing and textiles and that type of thing. And but also textile science classes, which, you know, I still had a lot of students who were like, why do I have to take this class? And it's like, well, hey, you sit
Can
on
you
fabric.
select this? Like, does
Yeah, I mean,
anyone really make someone take a fashion or a marketing class? Like,
yeah, it was something. The textile science class was something that like the interior designer students had to take, and they didn't see the benefit of it. I'm like, okay, those drapes on the wall, that's fabric, those are textiles, you got to learn about it. So I had to sell them on that. I usually could, but when I started, my family, I was just like, okay, yeah, public school, no problem. There was just absolutely, I mean, 22 years ago, homeschooling was not as big a thing. But I went to enroll my oldest son into the local public school, and they sent me home with this huge pack of papers. And the first thing that I looked at was this questionnaire. And the first thing on the questionnaire was, and sorry guys, if this is, if you're listening to this, this is a little bit TMI, but was your child born vaginally or by C-section? If vaginally, were forceps used?
What?
Exactly.
Like, why? Why? Wait, what? Are they trying to file a lawsuit? What is this? Why? Are you supposed to be
My
compensated
gosh.
for that?
I mean, it obviously impacted me a lot since I can remember it verbatim, over. But anyway, I was like, that is none of your business. And I went on.
Yeah, why? Why do they want to know that?
Well, once I got over the mama bear stuff and found another school for my son, because at that point I had toddler twins and a newborn, and I didn't think I had any other choices. One of my biggest regrets is not just starting homeschooling right then. But once I just got over being mad, like, forget you. I'm not putting my kid in that. Because, and the reason I didn't want to is because I felt like no matter how I answered that, they would be labeling my kid. If I didn't answer it, I would automatically be labeled as an uncooperative parent. If I did answer it, they would be like trying to figure out, okay, is this a cause for any behavioral problems? I didn't expect my kid to have behavioral problems, but yeah, I just didn't like them labeling him before they even met him.
Based off of how they were born, like how they were delivered?
Yeah.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy. And I didn't like it. I did not like it. But anyway, I checked into the school, and evidently it was a failing school in a failing system. And even the state was like number 49 out of 50. I mean, it was just horrible.
What state? What state?
It was Arizona. They've gotten better.
Where I'm home based at.
Oh, you are?
Oh my. So yeah, no, I hear that's the first thing people talked about was the school system. We're moving there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're 49 anymore, but I know they're still like, at the bottom of the totem pole. So
yeah. And a lot of people will tell me, well, you need to support the school system. It's not going to get better if you don't, support it. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I am not going to sacrifice my child at the altar of public schooling when I feel like it did not serve me well. Anyway, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. So
did they do any school? Did they do any public school?
My oldest son did 2 years.
Okay.
And when my twins were ready for kindergarten, I started homeschooling, and I used those 2 years to really dive deep, use my research skills that I had from my master's degree and all that to really figure out what I wanted to do. And I spent way too much studying. I should have just done it.
Did it?
But and really, I mean, when I look back at those times, those 2 years, I was so busy just getting kids in the car to take, rush, get my kid to school, getting them out of the car, and then trying to get all kinds of stuff done, but while he was in school, and then, waking the kids up to put them back in the car to take him to go pick him up. And it was
crazy. A lot. Yes.
It was.
That's what my friend that's in New York, she spoke on that. Because people always want to tell her, like, oh, you kids should go to public school or da 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 da. She's like, well, are you gonna help with that? Like, are you gonna help me get, because she has 4. It's like, you gonna help me get, like, that's a lie. Like, there's no bus coming to pick them up. Like, she has to go and catch a train and catch a public bus or whatever. That's a lot. People don't think about that. And then you're toting around toddler twins. Oh my gosh. And a newborn trying to get
yeah. And then I had him in the first kindergarten. I had him in a private school, and it was a wonderful school. But I go drop him off, and they'd want me to take him to
The
his
room.
classroom.
Oh,
And so here I am, trying to
oh,
hold on to twins and a newborn and get my 5-year-old in there. And I'm
how?
just,
How did
oh
you
my
do
gosh.
that?
It was
I know
hard.
you
It was
did it.
hard.
Look, because you did it. But
You,
how?
you just, yeah, you just get really strong arms, I guess. Now I think for the first month or so, I was like, getting out the double stroller, putting the baby in
Mhm.
it, putting one of the toddlers in there, telling the other one, hold on and don't let go, because you're in the sea of kids. And anyway, um I got through it. All moms do.
Of
We're
course.
strong.
That's why I said I know you did it. So
Yeah,
how did you do
yeah,
it? But that's
yeah,
wild that the school wouldn't see that and be like, oh well, we'll just meet you at the door, or like something of some kind of compassion of I see you and I understand this is a struggle for you. So let me help you. You don't
yeah.
have to do that. Like it's a lot of us in here. We can come and get him and walk him with the rest. That would have just been nice.
Yeah, it I try, I did, if I got a good parking space and I could like stand at the door. There was one door where I could stand at the door, see the car and see his door, and so I could like get him in that
Yeah.
way. But it was just really hard if any of the little ones fell asleep in the car, which,
I can
you know,
imagine.
yeah. But anyway, it's 2 years later, I started, and I told my husband, okay, I convinced my husband, okay, let's just try 1 year, 1 year.
Okay, so
And
you had to sell him on it. He wasn't like, oh, like I hear you, but
yeah, no, he did not see the vision at all.
okay,
And but after a year, I just kept going. We've never turned back.
nice.
And it was the type of thing where, my husband's family was not too sure, but my family was always very supportive.
Oh,
At least
nice.
my parents were. Um, it was funny. I had one sister who was not, she and her husband were not supportive at first, and then she ended up homeschooling her kids for several years. I sold her on it.
Oh, yes. I want to say,
Yeah,
look at you making
yeah,
changes in the family, like showing, inspiring. Yes.
yeah. I converted her. Um, but I mean, my in-laws, um, they weren't too sure until my oldest graduated from college, really. And he
All the
graduated.
Lord, oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had this one brother-in-law that was just, oh my gosh, he was so horrible. He would, every single time he saw the kids, he would just grill them on these
Oh my
things that,
goodness.
I mean, here
That adults
I
don't even know. Yes.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, some of these things, I remember it was like Herodotus or something like that. And he was like a father of history or something. He was one of the first historians. And I mean, some of his stuff that he wrote was, to be honest, kind of raunchy. And I'm like, I'm not gonna have my 11-year-old read this. And anyway, he ended up reading it in college, but I'm like, okay, that's the right time.
Yeah,
But
I like college is way different than 11. So
yes, yeah, yeah. But and it wasn't something I told him you had to read or anything. It just happened to be in one of his college classes. But yeah, my oldest graduated with honors from college. And they were finally like, oh well, maybe Heidi's not doing such a bad job. And I'm like, okay,
thanks. Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
thanks, guys.
15 years later. Thanks,
uh,
guys. I appreciate that. Like,
yeah,
thanks.
yeah, exactly. So it was, yeah,
How
I
did
mean,
that look for you? Have five boys. How did that look for
yeah.
y'all? Like what was your day like?
Well,
And
I
then
started out when
twins.
they Yeah, when I started out, I was using the classical education model.
Okay.
Because I really liked the structure, the history structure. I mean, I remember being so frustrated with history when I was in school, because I mean, I did Chinese history one year, then US history another year, and then I go back to world history, and it was just like there was no like continuum, and I didn't see how anything connected. And so that was something
Mm.
that was, I wanted to make sure I had. So that's what first drew me to it, and then the structure of it. And I read The Well-Trained Mind, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to teach my kindergartners cursive and Latin and Spanish and all of this stuff. And that lasted maybe
I
2
would
months.
say, okay. Okay. Oh, we
We
be
did
having those
stick with
high hopes.
we it was a little bit much. And but I did teach my kindergartners cursive, because
Nice.
my oldest was going into second grade, and he wanted to learn cursive, and so we just all did cursive, and my twins started out with cursive, and that worked really well for them.
That's pretty
um
awesome. I've never heard that. Like starting out with writing, and writing in cursive first before print.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. And it actually it helps a lot of kids, especially boys who are a little bit slower to develop, because and also kids who might be flipping their letters and stuff, because like D's and B's
Hmm.
start out real differently. It's like, okay, we're moving through it. And then one of my twins especially was very artistic, and so that creativity of the curves and everything, that just kind of helped develop that. And so that did stick. The Latin,
Not so
no,
much.
not so much, not so much. They ended up doing Latin in high school, and that was fine. um, but we had a really fun time with the history. We really got into it. I mean, like one Halloween, they were a Roman, what is that? They all dressed up as Romans. I made them Romans. And then my husband, we put a toga on him, and he was Caesar, and they were marching down the streets. And that was lots of fun. But so we really integrated a lot. It was very active. We had some stairs, and we did a lot of homeschooling on the stairs.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, just get some action in there. It's like, okay, spell this spelling word. Okay, you get to go up a step. And then
Oh,
it was like a race to get up to the top of the stairs, and then once they got to the top of the stairs, they got to boom, 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 all the way down.
yes. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and that was just a fun thing. And I mean, real simple, but 5, 6 years old, yeah, I want
Hmm.
to go bump, 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 bump down the
Time of their
stairs. So
life. Time of
yeah,
their life. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I know when I first started, I tried to do a lot of seat work, and that
Mm.
I
With
soon
five
realized,
boys.
yeah, yeah, I only had four at that point, but
Okay.
but it yeah, it was hard. I couldn't keep that up. I also tried to do a longer day, and I'm like, no,
Mm.
that's not, I lose interest. I get like an hour with my kindergartners, and that was enough. And then I could let them play. Although it was really interesting. Okay. The first week, well, first of all, let me back up a little bit, because, I had these 2 years before, while I was preparing, and I realized I was yelling a lot.
Oh.
Okay. I was, with these four boys. I mean, the little one was screaming, the other two would start screaming, and it's just like the only way I felt I could be heard was screaming sometimes. And, when my little one was getting a little bit older and everything, I just realized, okay, I have to figure out how I'm not screaming at him all the time, because,
Yeah.
a homes if we're going to be together 24/7, that is going to be,
A
I'm going to
lot.
be paying all kinds of money in therapy, if
Yes,
I keep
ma'am.
this up.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I did spend quite a bit of time developing discipline
Mm.
routines, and I really worked on myself and purposely stopped yelling. and I started whispering. And
Oh,
that made a huge difference. When mom was whispering, the boys knew they had to be quiet in order to hear. And it worked wonders. It
I
worked
like
wonders.
that.
Yeah. And I also, one of the things, so often, especially when we have a bunch of little kids, it's like, they do something. It's like, well, I'm going to take all of your toys away if you keep doing that. And it's like,
Mm.
are you really?
Are
Are
you?
you
I know
really?
that. Yes, I hear threats all the time. It's like, are you going to be able to follow that? Like, are you
Yeah.
going to be able to do
Yeah. Yeah. And so I decided that I had to, if we were going to be together 24/7, I had to make sure that I could follow through and
that?
and do what I said I was going to do, because I wanted them to be able to trust me, because we were going to have this such close relationship. And so I sat them down and I told them, I mean, they were little, but I told them, I said, if I say something, I'm going to do it. If I can't do it, I will apologize, but I am going to try really, really hard to always only say things that I'll be able to do.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and so it's good things too. It's like, can we go to the store or whatever? And it's like, it might be a maybe, but I would
Mm-hmm.
not say yes unless I was sure I could do it, because I
Yeah.
wanted them to know. But I also wouldn't say no. I tried really hard not to say no all the time.
Yes.
And so they started, believing me. And the hardest thing was follow through. And I
Mm.
mean, I tell the story all the time about how we would all get in the car and the kids just automatically, it was like their cue to just start going crazy. And it was so hard to drive with this, people would say, oh, what is it? Their kids. Anyway, I had kids in stereo. It's like, really, people were saying that they had their kids going like crazy. And it's like, no, they were going crazy all over me. And so one day I strategically told them, while we were in the car, we were going someplace they all wanted to go, but for me it was not something that we had to go to.
Mm.
And so I told them, I kind of whispered, I said, you need to be quiet, otherwise I'm going to stop the car. They didn't listen to me. So I pulled over and I stopped the car and I just sat there. And the oldest one, eventually figured out the car wasn't moving anymore. And he knew he wanted to get where we were going. And I said, he said, Mommy, why aren't we going? And I'm like, well, I can't drive when you guys are being so loud. And he said, and so he told his brothers and they all calmed down a little bit. And I said, okay, are you ready to go? Because if you are loud again, I'm going to pull the car over and stop. So they said, no, we'll be quiet. We'll be quiet, and they were for a few minutes. And then I said again, if you aren't quiet, I'm going to pull over the car. I said it really softly. And I had to pull over just one more time. And they knew I was going to follow through in what I was going to
Nice.
say. If I said it, I was going to do it. And that one disciplinary thing that if I said something, I followed through. And I was very careful in what I said.
Yes. Yes.
That was like a foundation, for having, eventually 5 boys.
Mm.
Um, that kept the peace, because the kids knew if I said something, I would follow through.
I don't know.
And
She mean that, guys.
yeah,
But isn't it amazing how trusting kids are in the car, though? It's like, oh, you really trust me for you to be back there doing all that and feel like I'm still like here, focused. Because mine are like a look at me type, like, yo, it's raining outside. Y'all want me to look at you while I'm driving? And like, you think that's safe right now? Like, do you think that's safe?
yeah.
Kids' behavior in cars always amazes me. It's like, yo, y'all are really trusting. Like,
Yeah.
you don't think I should be focused right now? It's crazy.
Well, my youngest just learned how to drive. He just got his
Oh,
license. And he's like, all of a sudden, he's realizing, oh my gosh, mom, you need to do this. And it's like, yeah, he's not so trusting anymore.
it's right, exactly. Oh, you see the focus that's needed, huh? Oh, you want it
Yeah.
to be, you want us to be quiet. Huh? You want everybody to be quiet right now? Is that what you want?
Yeah. 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 No, it's so funny. But yeah, that oh, one other thing in cars that really helped is audiobooks. I mean, back then I
Mm,
had to get, tapes from the library and stuff, and I would buy tapes and CDs and oh my gosh, it saved my life.
game changer.
I took all four of my older boys on a 3-week vacation
Oh,
driving. We
oh,
drove, we drove from Arizona to California, up to Oregon, back down to California, and then back. And um, we stopped at friends and family and stuff, and
mm-hmm.
then we met up with my husband at the end, and he drove us back. But that entire 3 weeks, we were listening to audiobooks, and
Nice.
for the most part, that kept them quiet because
Nice.
it was awesome, and
I'm
we
about to
still
try
listen to
that.
audiobooks. Yeah, it definitely helps. It doesn't work on all kids. Some kids don't like audiobooks, unfortunately.
Disclaimer. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
just no. This
yeah.
worked for us, okay?
Yeah, if it doesn't work for you, I mean, it does help if you get them started early.
Yeah.
But another thing I did is I would put Jim Weiss. Actually, his stuff is now sold through the Well Trained Mind website. He has some like, he's a storyteller, and he like
Mm.
retells like classic stories and things like that, but they're much shorter. And so every lunchtime I would put on one of his stories, and that would just, it helped because it wasn't mommy, mommy, mommy. I would
Mm-hmm.
have a time to rest my voice, so I wasn't talking all the time. And it gave me a little bit of quiet. So
Nice.
that was just another, lifesaver for me. Um, when my fourth son started, he ended up being totally different than my three older boys, and I had to do even more active stuff. And I got
Mm-hmm.
one of those little trampolines,
Mm-hmm.
and going up and down the stairs wasn't enough. He had to be more active. And so um by that time I wasn't as tied to seat work and stuff like that. And so
Mm-hmm.
he would just do, like learning his math facts by jumping on the trampoline, and spelling and whatever. But very soon after he started homeschooling with us, I moved away from the classical model, and I
Mm-hmm.
found leadership education. It's also known as Thomas Jefferson education. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people know it by that title just because that's the book that kind of explained leadership education, which actually has been around for millennia. But leadership education, I liked better, and it definitely worked better for my fourth son, because it was more um, child development appropriate. Because for the
Mm-hmm.
younger kids, I really like it, because for the younger kids, it just really focuses on developing a love of learning.
Yeah.
You're not trying to jump through the hoops, um, which I always had a hard time with anyway. I mean, I wanted to learn. And
Mm-hmm.
when I was teaching, I had a teaching assistantship at Oregon State University for my first master's, and that I got called into the dean's office because I gave too many A's.
Huh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, she was like, Heidi, you really need to have a bell curve in your grading. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, so if they all didn't even if they learned, everybody learned all of the material, I'm still supposed to give some people D's, some people C's, some people B's and A's. Yes, you're supposed to do that. I'm like, nah, I can't do that. And I
Why?
asked her,
Like, why?
that was just how it was done. I couldn't see any logic. I mean, as a
She
teacher, it
probably
was
didn't have any either. But
as
I
a
know the
teacher.
A's in college, I know they're, they kind of hold back on the A's because they want the kids to still grow or feel like they have room for more development. So I got it. I
Yeah.
understood it. But like to say that, oh no, everybody you need to make sure that you got some D's, some C's. Like, no, like,
No,
why?
no. I was just teaching a lab course. But I asked her if my students, because there were several labs of kids that were in the, going into the lecture class. And I asked her, I said, are my kids doing better in the lecture course? Because they got grades for both. And she said, well, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, for me, that was enough. Even though she was like the dean of the school and, I just, I couldn't go against my conscience. I felt like my job as an instructor was to teach all of my kids. And, my students are my kids, and they always have been, always will. But I just wasn't going to do that. So jumping through those hoops, that academia puts in front of us, I, for a long time have had a problem with. And then my fourth son, where I was using a classical model for my older three, that it worked fine. He just wanted to buck the system, and he actually pushed me into, finding a different system, and, finding and implementing leadership education in my own life, in our family's life. And it was a total game changer for all of us. And, I could label him as, the problem child, but, I tell him, I'm so grateful you pushed, because it made such a positive change in all of our lives. And through that, we were able to find a community that taught classes for the older kids, because in leadership education, they have core phase is what they call it. And that's like from birth to about 7 years old. And during that time, they're just, focusing on teaching them, right and wrong, good and bad, their place in the family, and things like that, hard work. They're also learning reading and things like that if that comes up, but it's not pushed. The focus is on that. Then from 7 to about 12, it's that love of learning and developing that love of learning, and also exposing them to good educational materials. So I kind of describe it as like classical unschooling. And I really feel like I admire people so much if they can do unschooling, because I think it's the hardest but most effective method of education, of homeschooling, because you really have to see what your kid, it's very child-led. You have to be flexible, and it is that developing that genius within their kid, and really developing that love of learning. And so with leadership education, you're also just, adding in a lot of classics and a lot of just a lot of different experiences for them as well. And just kind of, it's just a little bit more. But then the next phase is scholar, and that's from 12 to, about 18. And that's when it looks more like classical. And that's when they're ready for it. I have to apologize, almost on a yearly basis to my older three boys. It's like, I'm so sorry, you were my guinea pigs, they survived. They were fine. But but it's, you do, you're constantly growing. And it was actually good for them to see how I I researched and I figured out and things, and I grew, and my educational methodology, has grown even since then. But we found, in order to really do this scholar phase for my oldest, I felt like I needed to find some classes for him to be in so he could be around other kids his age, to have that positive peer pressure to do these things and to do more, just because you can do more when you have more kids. And at that point, I had our fifth son. He's 7.5 years younger than his next oldest. And
oh wow, that's a gap. You were
that's a
still hoping
big,
for that girl, huh? Like,
actually.
oh, okay, let's try one more time.
You know what? People always assume that, but it was one of those, he was just that
surprise.
baby that, he was a surprise. He was a blessing. I'm so grateful for him. My brother gave me the biggest compliment when we found out it was a fifth boy. He said, "You know what? If anybody can handle 5 boys, it's Heidi." And so I'm like, I was very grateful for that, because a lot of people were, when I found out it was another boy, they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm like, "What? No, we're so excited."
Are you gonna leave him at the hospital? Are you gonna bring that one home too? Oh man, so sorry. Sorry that didn't work out for you.
Like, no. I mean, my husband was so excited that it was a fifth boy, because he's like,
oh my gosh, you gotta
I know
start
the
at 5
equipment
over there. Yes.
And my 4 older ones, especially my oldest, he was so afraid it was going to be a girl, because he, with all of these boys, he was like, okay, these mystical creatures named girls, what do they do? And his, like, he's my oldest is a storyteller. Yeah, my oldest is a storyteller, and he made up this story about this horrible place that you go, and it's called Barbie jail. And all of them were like, "Oh no, if it's a girl, we're going to have Barbie jail. We're going to have this room where it's just full of Barbies." And I don't even like Barbies, but somehow they came up with this. So when it was a boy, it's like, okay,
really, we're good. Unit's still in place. Like, testosterone's still raining high over here. All right. Oh. Yeah, no, they would have been excited either way. They would have.
They would have been fine. I think it was just funny how they came up with these stories, and it has definitely been a blessing that, having 5 boys. I love being a boy mom, and my fellow boy moms really know, how fun it is. And
you're still smiling. You look good. Look, still all in one piece. Got all your limbs. Like, tell them, it's not bad, guys. It's not that bad.
It's not that bad. I actually got through. I mean, I just have a few more months now. I got through without, and none of them even had broken bones. So
5 boys and no cast. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. But you said, like, you started with, and I really love that you started there, is with homeschooling being a lifestyle, of course, but just the growth that you saw or worked on within yourself, like how much you knew you had to grow in order for it to work.
Yeah. No, I really, that discipline that I instilled in myself and in the boys, so that they understood, they had really clear expectations. It was such a blessing, especially when they got to be a teenager. Mm-hmm. It helped so much with our communication. I have this one presentation I do about teenagers, where I tell everybody, I told my kids teenagers weren't allowed, and they just weren't allowed in my home. And, it's like, no, I didn't kick them out when they were 12. It's that whole negative stereotype of a teenager. That wasn't part of my expectations.
Yes.
And I really I've never had a real serious issue, with the teenage
Because of your
years.
relationship with your young
Yeah.
men. Like you have
Yeah.
a relationship with them. It's not just a parent, like, like a authoritative perspective or a standpoint. It's like, no, we built, and like you said, communication
Yeah.
means everything.
It
So
does.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Five boys.
Yeah.
5 boys. How's that youngest one? So his days looking like? Or how did things, because that's you said 7.5 year gap between him and the next to youngest.
Yeah.
But your oldest is how old? Like how old is your oldest now?
29.
29. Okay. So
Yeah.
29 and 17, 18 is
17. He turned
17.
17 this summer. Yeah.
Oh my. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
gap.
It
So
is a
I
gap.
know things changed.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, for me as a mom, it's like I am a systems person. I like systems. And when everybody was home, it's like, okay, everybody had a day, and they would have a day where it was their dishes day or whatever. And when they were little, it's like, okay, whose day is it today to to pick the movie we watch it at, whatever.
okay.
It was like, I always had the days, and it worked so good. Whose day was it
Nice.
to sit in the front seat or whatever? I mean, there wasn't all the laws that are, there now. But anyway, but as the kids started moving away, it's like my systems fell apart. My home wasn't getting clean. And it's like this poor little, youngest one. He's like, I don't have to do it all.
All
So
my worker bees are gone. Goodness.
yeah, and as they were leaving, I started my own business. I went back to school, actually got a teaching credential and a second master's in education. I taught at a private school for a while. I taught for a homeschool charter school here in California. And so I was busier.
Yeah.
I mean, when my twins went to college, it's like, okay, oh no, I've now lost, over half of my kids. I need to replace them. So what do? I become a part-time teacher at a private school. Replace them with like, it was like, 15 kids, but still, I needed to keep that up. And then when my fourth son went, I got the position at the charter school, and I ended up having like, 30 kids. So it's, but I'm weird. That's just me. So,
no, I understand. Kids keep you young. It's nice to be around them and keep, active, and they creative with their ideas, their imagination. Like they really do. I feel like kids really keep people young.
They do. And I mean, through my experience with the leadership education, it's very mission focused, helping people find their mission, live their mission. I kind of found what you could call mission. I feel like the mission I don't like that term. And so I started my business Realizing Genius, because I feel like that is a better term. It's not so many people. It's like, mission impossible, or, or you get one mission and that's it for your life. And it's like, no. It's, with genius, it's something that you are developing this genius in yourself and in your kids. And genius is not just one thing. It's, it involves lots of different things. And my business is called Realizing Genius, because
I love the
realizing. Thanks. I'm really happy with it. yeah, it's that realizing is just sharing your genius with the world and the
Yes.
importance of that. And
Recognizing it, acknowledging it, seeing it
yeah,
within your self-awareness. Because I feel like everyone's born genius. Like I feel
yeah,
in some aspect, some way, however that looks for you, whatever your purpose, whatever your passion, whatever it is, that's your genius. And so
yeah.
realizing genius, I love that name. I love it
Oh,
because
thank you.
not everyone is realizing the genius that lies within them. Not everyone is recognizing their greatness. So
Yeah.
bring it out of them, Heidi. Bring it out of them.
Thanks. Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is from Einstein, or it's attributed to Einstein. It says, "Everybody is a genius,
Indeed.
but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a
Climb a
tree,
tree. Yeah.
yes, it will live its whole life believing it is stupid."
Yes, ma'am. I love
Yeah,
that. I feel like that was somebody's signature too in the email. But
probably.
that's
Yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah,
Quote nice sign. I joined in on that. I did.
yeah.
But tell us
Yep.
more about Realizing Genius. What do you do?
Well, one of the things I do is I have an online conference in February,
Love that.
and that is I do it in February just because I've noticed that that is when everybody burns out. And like right now we're recording this in November, and it's like, hurry, 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 let's get through, get to the holidays, and then
Mm-hmm.
we'll be able to have this break somehow. And I don't know about you, but the holidays are not a break for moms. They are like busier than ever. And then you get through the holidays and you come to the first of the year, and it's like, okay, I
I
gotta
know. Breathe.
somehow, yeah,
Let's breathe now.
yeah, how can I get through the next 6 months?
Mm.
And somehow you figure out how to keep going until those holidays in February. And then it's like you just totally deflate. You have no inspiration. You're ready to quit. And you
And
know
January is long too. That's the
oh my
thing.
gosh, oh, it is. And if you're in an area where it's snowing,
Cold. Yes.
yeah, yeah, you have all those kids in the inside, and you're like ready to kill
Yes.
them. And yeah, why did I decide to do this?
Library
um
asks you not to come back. Like, ma'am, your children keep running around. Like, this is not the park. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And so anyway, my conference, it's all pre-recorded. So homeschoolers, homeschool moms can listen to these, and they can pick and choose what they
At
want
their leisure.
at their leisure. I have it for free for like 5 days. It's like February 22nd through 27th, 2024 this year. And I usually have 20 to 25 speakers. And um, it's it's just to inspire and uplift parents, give them different
Right.
ideas to keep going, and give them that vision of why they need to.
Yes.
Um, so that's one thing that's big. And just realizinggenius.com, and you'll see links. And I also have a subscription product, so that it's called Realizing Genius Connections. And that is a way where I have all of these recordings. I have like 100 hours of recordings of these amazing people with all this inspiration and all of these resources. And I put like 3 more recordings up every single month. And from I've been doing these conferences for several years now. And anyway, that's just something where if you join that, you get access to all of these recordings. You can go in there and find, if you're having an issue, go in there and find somebody to inspire you, and have it so it's there 24/7 year round. And that's just something that's it's not it's I think I have it at like $9.99 right now a month, so for all of that inspiration. And one of the biggest things I do is I do coaching for teens. When the one thing that happens when they hit teenage years is sometimes mom starts sounding like, those old Snoopy videos, and how exactly. I have great relationships with my kids. One of the reasons is I know that is a natural thing that happens, and I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
And I coach teens so that they can have a different voice to hear.
Yes.
And because I'm not mom or dad, they hear me.
Yes. I was just talking to a friend's daughter the other night. She's 15, and her mom was like, see, it'll probably sound different coming from someone outside of the house, because me and her dad talk, but that's true. It does sound different.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, why is she talking at me?
Yeah. And it's a natural thing. I mean, in their teenage years, they are trying to establish their own identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to stop listening to you. Mm-hmm. And it's not a personal thing. Mm-hmm. But finding a mentor, finding a coach for your teens, especially when you're homeschooling, it really helps. And so what I do is, I do academic coaching, but I also really help them with just holding them accountable. I will go through all of their schoolwork. It's like, okay, what do you have to get done this week? Okay, how are you going to get it done? Time management skills, things like that. And I have a system that I've put in place where really my coaching students, they have access to me all week long.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it like weekly sessions, or how does that work?
Yeah, we have weekly sessions, but then I also use an app where they can ask me questions every single day.
Nice.
Yeah. And I also, through that, I meet with the teens once a week for an hour, but the parents also, with that program, I meet with them once a month if they want to, but also we'll take questions and give suggestions throughout the month. Just to support them and also keep them updated and say, okay, how are we doing? Is there something that is going on in the home that I need to be aware of? How can I help you? How can I help them? How can I help the family and support the family? And if kids are younger than teens, then I work just directly with the parents. And because I'm a credentialed teacher, because I have 20 plus years of experience homeschooling, and I've had 30 years, it's been 30 years since I started in the educational scene with my college experience. I have a lot of resources. And then with my before I did the online conferences, I was doing small local conferences. So I have all of these resources that I can share as well. So, and that's something I just love doing. I can sit here and just talk for hours on that. So,
love that.
Yeah, but I also, besides doing Realizing Genius, I'm also the director of operations for Leadership Education Mentoring Institute. Okay. And in that role, we offer classes for parents to take to their homeschool community, and using a project-based learning method to teach these classes in their communities. And we support communities in many different ways. We offer almost weekly webinars, and they're free if you just register. At least this year they're free. And so if people are interested in learning more about leadership education, they can just go to lemi-u.com, and that's LEMI-u.com, and find out more information there. So.
Nice. So you
Yeah.
got, playing a little role here and there, offering tools and resources
Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
like you say,
That's
you have a lot, 20 plus years and college. You got college graduates and everything else. Oh, your voice is definitely needed. Very, very much so. I
oh,
appreciate
thank you.
you. Like I say, you
Thank
still
you.
smiling after, being with 5 boys all their life, like every day, like every day. That's
Well,
beautiful.
one thing I know we're about running out of time, but one thing I did want to share is that one of the really cool things about having this homeschool lifestyle, creating this relationship with my kids, is even though my 4 older ones are gone,
Mhm.
um, we have regular family calls. And this
Mhm.
started when my oldest went to college, and he wanted to still have a connection, especially to his youngest brother. He didn't want to
Aw,
go away and have his little brother forget him. And
aw,
so they have a really close relationship, even though he's 12 years older than him.
that's awesome.
And we still have these weekly calls so that all of his brothers can hear what's going on in his life, and he can hear what's going on in theirs. And we can, as parents, my husband and I can be part of that too. And I'm just so grateful,
Yes.
because I'm not sure if we would have had that kind of a relationship if they had been in public school. Yeah.
Yes. No, that's beautiful. Y'all are a unit. Like that's awesome. And that's awesome for your son to think of his younger brother. That's monumental.
Yeah.
Because the dynamics of siblings, like it's not always like oh brotherly love. It's like brotherly like
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
so
I mean, and we had our wrestling
of
matches and,
course.
disagreements and things like that. But um, yeah, we had to figure out how to get along because we were with each other all the
All
time.
the time, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So, Heidi, 3 pieces. I need 3 things that you would tell new homeschool families, new up and coming or thinking about it, or even ones that are already in there. Just 3 things that you would like speaking from an expert perspective, what do you have?
Well, the first thing is, I mentioned it before, is that get the discipline part figured out first. Okay. When you have that down, then start with the education part, because that is the foundation that you're going to have to build on. And then also know there's going to be bad days, and it's okay to just say, okay, we are all in a bad mood. I live in California, so it's like, let's go to the beach,
Mhm.
and there were a lot of days where I would just say, okay, homeschooling was better today just because my kids learned it's okay for mom to say, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Okay. And finding just little things like that um, will allow you to make it to 20 years. you
Yeah.
know, I know not everybody has that many kids and all of that, but it'll help you get through. Um, and then the last thing is find a homeschool community.
Mm.
That is one thing I have found that is a make or break. And you think you're finding the community for the whole S word socialization thing for your
Mhm.
kids. And when they get to be older, yeah, it is for the kids. But at the beginning, it's for you. You
Support.
need the
That S
social.
word is support for you. Yes.
Yes, yes, you need that. You
Yes.
have to have that support. You need that shoulder to cry on. You need that networking to find all the things, all of the amazing opportunities. You need that person to, those people to help you, get your kids to all of these places. So, yeah, that
It is
is,
very important. Thank
yeah,
you for that. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Heidi, I love it. Thank you so much. Realizing Genius. You already gave websites, but let's recap all of the leadership and the Realizing Genius. Where can we find you?
Realizing Genius is just realizinggenius.com. Real easy.
Okay. Social
And
media.
then social media, Realizing Genius.
Okay.
Yeah, that's on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as well, and that's Realizing Genius Paradigm.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm sticking to those two. Those are my major ones. I'm also on LinkedIn, and just look for me as Heidi Christensen. And then for Leadership Education Mentoring Institute, if you search for Lemi, Lemi, on Facebook or Instagram, you'll find me there. And then the website is lemi-u.com, and you'll find all kinds of resources there as well.
Awesome. Tap into Heidi. She's definitely resourceful. She has plenty to offer and she's willing to offer it. So I love the coaching for the teenagers. They need it. They need support. They really, really do. And a lot of parents don't necessarily know how to provide that. Like you said, the Charlie Brown, like, you know, it parents do get to a burnt out stage, but we want that transition to be there. Like you said, I'm not embracing or claiming any of the negative teenage stereotypes that people, try to force into your home. Like, nah, me and my teenagers gonna have good time together. We're gonna have great relationship. We're gonna have great communication. We're gonna have great foundation of our, everything that we built on. It ain't gonna go just because you don't hit teen, like, because you got teen at the end of your age does not mean that we are not going to still be best friends. Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But yes, like, tap in, definitely check out. But also just remember that this is something that you can do. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It looks different for everyone. Your home, your way. Just reimagine what learning looks like and make it and make it work for everyone. And that's the beauty of this homeschooling game, is that it is individualized. Like Heidi said, the first 3 were on this program, then that fourth one was like, now you're gonna have to switch up the game for me, mom, because this is not it. And you can do that. That's the joys of homeschooling, is being able to switch that up. So make it work for you, but remember that it's not something you have to do alone. So check out the resources and get the support and homeschool your kids.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
Of course.